G'day, mate. What's your name?
Jacques Barrett.
Jacques. What do you do, Jacques?
Comedy.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Crowdworkcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thanks so much for joining me. Great episode for you this week. It is my old mate, Jacques Barrett. This was a really fun chat we had a little while ago back in Melbourne when we were both down there for the Melbourne Comedy Festival. Jacques is always a good hang and a very, very funny comedian. So if you ever get the chance to go see him, do that. And to that end, if you are in Brisbane this Friday night, Jacques will be performing at the Brisbane Powerhouse as part of the Brisbane Comedy Festival. There's still some tickets left for that show, so I cannot recommend getting along to that highly enough. And give him a follow. He's a good follow on social media. His handle on Instagram is at JB Championi. That's JB Champion with an I on the end. Like I said, always a good follow. Plenty of good content on there. If you'd like to give me a follow, I am at Andrew Barnett Comedy. If you're enjoying the podcast, please do leave it a review, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. If you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Other than that, just tell other people about it. Spread the word if you like the podcast. And hopefully we can help this thing grow. Anyway, that's enough chatting from me. Let's get into the episode. This is me and Jacques Barrett. Comedy. This is the one question that so many comedians...
Door closed?
I've left it open because it gets kind of hot in here.
Gotcha.
Well, I can close it if you want. Would you feel more comfortable?
No, I'm just worried about you. I don't want to get halfway through it and have you go, oh, I can't because we got
No, I think we're
power tools next door.
We're the only people in the building, and I'm hoping that power tool's not really coming through because I think these mics are pretty directional.
It's tight equipment. Here's what's happened is I've mentioned something and we've been 40 seconds into the podcast. I've already
derailed it.
Made you got editing to do.
No,
already.
no.
I fucked it.
You think I've got editing
Listen,
to do.
I want to be honest with you.
You don't listen to this podcast.
Do you just let it roll?
Oh, mate.
We're starting from scratch.
It's
Listen, I'm calling it. We're starting from scratch. I've come in this with the wrong attitude. I've had too many Turkish delights, and you know what I'm like after snacks and treats. Oh, I'm nervous.
You're
I'm
a sugar
nervous. Bear. Thank you. Have you seen my OnlyFans ad? Have you?
We're not starting again.
We're not starting again?
No. Tell me about you. How did you... So you... Is because you've been doing... How long have you been doing stand-up?
Well, look, it depends on when do you say you started. Some people say from the moment, the first time they ever went on stage, or the first time you got paid for it. 20 years ago in May is the first time I set foot on stage. Mm-hmm. First time I got paid for it was 6 years after that. So technically, 14 years... as far as the ATO is concerned.
Yep.
20 years as far as... But I mean, those first 6 years were kind of up and down.
6 years without pay. Because I started... My first gig was November 2009.
Gosh.
So, yeah, coming on 14 years. But I think then...
But you were a natural talent. You were a flash in the pan. You came out swinging. So did I, to be honest. I'm not sure about you, but everything I've ever pursued in my life, I have to be good at it early.
Oh, yeah. If I don't feel like there's potential, I will give up.
Okay. I understand you're saying potential. What I'm saying is when I start something, there needs to be talk of like prophecy being fulfilled. Chosen one.
A lot of that sort of talk.
Yeah. I get up, I do this thing. People are there's gasps, and then people quietly talk in like Fremen tongues of like, Lisan al-Gaib, he's the chosen one. You know, I'm not one of these people who like has a dream of I want to be that thing, and I'm going to do the hard yards no matter what. George Zakharopoulos, comic from the UK, super funny guy. He's got one bit where he talks about 10,000 hours to get good at something, 10,000 hours to master something. And he goes, but if you get to the 3,000 hour mark and you're still shit, stop.
100%.
It's such a fucking good call.
That is, that's one of those ones where that you'll laugh in the room and then have the thought like 2 days later in the shower, like, am I?
Oh no.
I can't have done more than 2,500 hours.
You got another 500
Yeah,
hours before we work out whether you're good or not. But I think you're great. I think you've got a lot of potential. You are lightning in a bottle as far as I'm concerned. Thanks for having me on this podcast. With my fan base and yours combined, people are going to see this.
Yeah.
People are going to get involved.
They're going to love it.
But yeah, comedy, I started 20 years ago. I was fucking around. I didn't want it to be a career. I wasn't one of those chumps who does 4 open mic slots and then all of a sudden changes their Facebook page to Jacques Barrett, comedian. I was just having fun with it. I didn't think it was a career. I assumed I was going to work in hospitality because I was a bar manager and silver service wine waiter. And there's a good buck in that racket. So I was just sticking with that and just see what happens with. And then out of nowhere, maybe about 5 years in, I just hit a groove and I just started getting a lot of MC work. And that's good paid work, but that's a fucking lot of stage time when you're MCing. Because you're on stage 25, 30 minutes a night.
Yep.
Headliners are the only other people on a gig, on a show, that are on stage for that long. And that stage time just sort of exponential. That's what really takes you up to the next level. And then
that stage time's a bit different to the headliner stage time too, in that your 25 minutes is spread out and you've got to restart. So you're learning those weird skills, like if something changes, some vibe changes in the room, your job to get it back to on an even 100%. Keel. Thank you very much.
And what you and I know, and the home viewers, thing called mop up.
Oh yeah.
When you're the MC, someone gets up there and just takes a fucking shit up there. You've got to get up there. And as an MC, I think a good MC has to mention the death. Some MCs will just motor on. Yep. I think mentioning it just slightly. I saw in the UK, the Comedy Store in the UK once when I was over there, went to a show, and there was the MC was a Newcastle comic called something or other. He's good. I can't remember his fucking name. I can't remember. I can't believe I can't. He's so fucking funny.
That checks out for comedy though, because no one remembers our names.
No, the good ones, no one ever remembers.
No.
The ones they remember are the ones that are rammed down their throat because they're constantly on TV every fucking year. Anyway, so I watched the middle spot of the first bracket is a headliner.
Yep.
Final bracket is a headliner. Middle spot is for new comics, show and promise. They do a trial to see if they're worthy of the Comedy Store. This one guy got up. I remember his name. I'm not going to say it.
That is such a comedian story. The
Totally.
guy that was really good at his job.
Who fucking cares?
The guy that shat in the room.
Dude, I have a tattoo of his name on my ass because he bombs so fucking spectacularly. He's a funny comic. I've seen him do well, but if you're a UK comic, the Comedy Store in London is a fucking bear pit, but it's your home premiere club in almost the Northern Hemisphere, arguably. And if you are living in the UK, you put pressure on yourself, and I fucking saw him. He got up there, first joke, did not even come close to hitting. Oh. Just misread the tone, not his fault, and then just fucking bombed badly. Like, horrific. 10 minutes, did his time. And then the MC
got to respect to do the time.
Got to. That's the UK policy. Do the time, no matter how long, how bad you bomb, and you fucking give these people a goddamn story. And at the end, the MC got back on and said to him, "Give it a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. It takes a lot of guts to get up here when you're that shit." And absolutely annihilated.
This is the thing. Like, there'll be people who hear that and say that's unnecessary, that's mean or whatever. But what I think, until you've done a lot of MCing, people don't like think about or might not realize is your job isn't the service. Your job's to set it up as best you can for the act that's coming on.
Yep.
Your job isn't to pretend that it all went the way that act wanted it to go, because your job is to go up there and go explain to the people that they're going to have a fun night, and you've got these comedians that are going to make sure they have a fun night, and if one of them doesn't do well, then if you don't acknowledge it, then the trust with the audience
That's
is lost.
it. That's completely it. It's a trust issue, and you jeopardize further acts because it's literally like if someone bombs and you don't mention it, it's the elephant in the room, and everyone's like, is he going to fucking mention what just happened?
Maybe.
And then you're like, your next, especially if you said your next act's great and they happen to not be on that night, they've also lost trust in you because skill set of an MC is much more dynamic than just getting up there and doing a 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-minute spot. Gives you a lot of skills, but I put pressure on myself, especially when I'm MCing an open mic night. I want to get a foundation, a soil for that show that is I want to make it as nice, open, welcoming, and as I possibly can.
Yeah,
and
you want the table set as well for
Yeah.
the comedians so that they walk off and they don't go, that crowd was weird, that whatever was with the vibe wasn't right. They walk off and go, I ate a dick because I ate a dick.
Yeah, you straight up fucking ate one. And then you got to roll out there like Cardi B with the fucking mop and a bucket.
And you have to acknowledge it. And yeah, I 100% agree. And like, there's ways to do it. Like, you don't always have to.
You don't put the fucking knife in.
No, because they know too,
Yeah.
is the other thing, especially when they are a more established comic who can do well. But you just, like, I've had, I remember one time I did this shitty little room that Marty Bright had, and it was basically surprise comedy.
Yeah, that's what people love to be surprised by lols.
It was a nightmare. And I remember I hosted. I remember Ben Elwood, Towns, they're all at the back. I remember partway through my opening bit, I see Elwood's just making the digging sign.
What a piece of shit.
Like,
that's so
I'm like,
funny.
you're going to have to come on here, dickhead.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Towns literally went up, did his set, and said goodbye to us from the stage because the stage was next to the door. And he
just walked straight out.
Walked straight out.
You love to see it.
Best laugh I got all afternoon, because it was afternoon.
What the
surprise
fuck,
comedy.
man? How many red flags you need on a gig?
I know. And as the best laugh I got all afternoon was when I went, Dan Towns, ladies and gentlemen. Jeez, and you guys thought you hated me.
Yeah. My third ever gig at the Comedy Store. My first gig I did good. Second gig did really fucking good. Really good. That was where I was like, ooh, okay. Yeah. Thank you, comedy gods, for showing me the path.
But I think comedy's just changed forever.
Forever. Yeah. I change comedy forever a lot. I'll tell you that much. But the third gig, I got up there cocky because I was like, I got this. And that is not an energy you need.
No.
As a white male, straight white male, cockiness, unless it's over the top, obviously sarcastic. But an open micer getting up there and I fucking bombed so hard. And then Chris Wainhouse was the MC and he came out after me and he goes, Jacques Barrett, ladies and gentlemen, making it look easy. And I was on a cruise ship with Chris Wainhouse, so we've obviously both landed on our feet.
Yeah.
And I brought that up with him in the crew bar and having a cocktail, and we're just talking about just shooting the shit. And I told him he said that, and he goes, man, I'm so fucking sorry for saying that. It's like, no, man, that was one of my most memorable and accurate moments of like, this is not easy to do comedy.
Yeah.
Please, it was a great early wake-up call that I think happened just at the right time for me. I had a lot of respect for comedy, for Chris, for MCing, for the whole, as Luke Hagee says, the lower end of the arts. I had a lot of respect for it from that moment onwards. Very necessary.
But that's I think that too. I worry sometimes now that we get people get too worried about, oh man, like, did he feel bullied or did he feel whatever?
Yeah.
For me, when the guys like Chris Wainhouse felt they were able to make fun of me, was when I'm like, oh man, these guys, because no one will make, especially guys like that, they don't make fun of the guy they don't respect or who they genuinely think shit.
Yeah. It's
when there's guys that are making fun of you who you respect. It's like,
dude,
oh man,
you're in.
I feel like I'm in.
You're in the mailroom of the corporation, but you're in the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because if you...
That's what these fucking soft kids don't fucking get, mate. If I'm bullying you,
Yeah.
if I'm giving you crow pecks and dacking you at a gig, please, it's because you're showing some potential. Not that I'm some kind of schoolyard bully. And it looks like that, and it will read like that in court. But
well, that's the thing too. Like I have had to adjust to that because my instinct is the same. Like I like fucking with people, but I'll only fuck with people if I think they can.
Yeah.
Like I'll mess with an intro or something for someone when you
know they're good.
When
they'll
you know
handle
they're
it.
good and they're going to be able to handle it. I got Wayne House so good one night at the Comedy Store. I had him and Badron were going. Badron would go on second last in the first, and then Wayne House was closing the first half. So this is the level that lineup was at that weekend.
Great
it was
stuff.
Unbelievable. And they were both just going on and crushing. And Ray on the Friday night, Ray was just slaying. And I said to Chris, you want anything for your intro? He goes, just say heaps better than that last guy. So I went on and I gave him that. I was like, well, did you like Ray? Yeah.
This
I
next
gotta be
guy.
honest, this next guy heaps better than that last guy. You guys are going to love him. And so he comes out, he goes, yes, I am the best. And he just destroyed.
Yeah.
So the Saturday night, he's like, just do the same thing. And Ray had said to me, mate, you got to do something for me. He goes, but it doesn't really work. And I was like, I don't know how to. So Saturday night, Ray goes on, just destroys, absolutely tears the roof off the joint. I go on, I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, Ray Badron. And they're like, yeah. And I said, did we enjoy Ray? And there's big noise again. I said, I am so glad, because if I'm honest, this next act, probably not as strong as the rest of the lineup tonight.
Great.
But I've got to be honest, he's a lovely guy. He tries really hard. He works really hard. And he's such a nice guy. So Comedy Store, just be nice. Chris Winehouse.
That's so brutal.
And he came out and he's like, you cunt. And it rattled him for his first bit because he was planning on coming out going, I am the best.
Exactly, yeah,
So
yeah.
he had to reset, but he still got him. And
Of course.
Still went well, but I just, the look on
In
his
perfect
face.
conditions like the Comedy Store, you can throw a mate under the bus early on and knowing full well they'll recover.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
I
knowing-
totally agree. But sometimes, and I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've said something that's not bullying, but is a little too comfortable with someone who started doing comedy early on, and they've not read my face well.
Yeah.
Or I haven't put out the sarcasm that their sarcdar isn't strong enough to pick up what I'm, and it's fucking uncomfortable. Especially when it's like you do something like someone's been doing comedy for 2 years, you get up there and they do good, and you're just like, you'll get them next time. And they're like, what? I thought I got them. And you're like, and you know it's countdown to them fucking being on the Melbourne Comedy Festival Gala in 6 years, never talking to you ever again. Like they're gonna shoot up through the ranks through natural fucking ability, and you're like,
they've got some crazy project that they, we need a type. We need a Jacques Barrett type, and they're like, we'll look for a Jacques Barrett type.
Type. And there's not that many white guys who wear flannels in comedy, so bit hard to replace.
Mate,
don't you ever get to thinking
we're a dying breed?
dying breed? We're a breed. I don't think we're dying.
No.
They always ask us to come in there and clean up, mop up. As Bill Burr says, you get one of these alternative acts come up there with their little blub, 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 and then who do they get to close the show? A fucking killer like me.
Fuck, he is a killer. I remember Cody telling me years ago when he opened for him, Cody said, did the polite thing and said, is there any topics you
don't want me to
steer
touch
away
upon?
from?"
Yeah.
And he laughed and went, I've been doing this 35 years. If I can't follow you, I shouldn't be headlining. It's like, It's
a great
the
point.
perfect attitude to have too for those sorts of things.
But that's a lovely show of respect that I do. I think a lot of comics do that. I think if you've got a tribal elder, or like a real a crusher, and you say, "Hey man, I noticed you did this last night. Are you going to do that again tonight? Because I do have some stuff that's kind of I wanted to do. It's a similar topic." And they're like, "Dude, fucking do it." I think two of us can talk about how our dicks don't work anymore, or whatever.
Well, not three of us. If
Not three of us.
But that's something too. Like if they there's an insecurity to like people that they want the whole topic to themselves. You're like, no, well, if that's you saying, I don't think my joke's that original. Like, if you've got an original take on something, then it doesn't really matter
at all
how many people have talked about the same topic.
So it's you just admitting, hey, this bit is hack as fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about it.
I to be honest, it works, but I'm not proud of it.
Yeah.
So just...
Have you got a lot of material in your set that works, but you're not proud of it?
No. Not at the moment. I've got... Not at the moment. Yeah, that was a bit honest.
Let's go through the back catalogue and find all of these...
I'm in a weird spot at the moment because I'm trying to... Because I'm not doing a solo show, so I'm still working on my stuff for my...
Are you not doing a solo show here in Melbourne?
No.
Really?
Yeah, no. So I
Spots and fucking around.
Spots and fucking
Oh,
around.
heaven.
Yeah, it's the greatest
This is the
way.
year to not do a solo, I'll tell you that much. All of these international acts have finally got their vaccinations and papers. They're all coming in and they're coming in hot, scooping up these fucking immigrants. Coming here, stealing our jobs with their brand new and interesting, unique voices and takes on the Australian way of life. All of these comics that you can't see year round and they only come to Australia once every 2 years, you fucking rats.
And
What about us local guys who are sort of just phoning it in? Why can't we sell tickets?
What about the people they could see any other week of the year?
Any other week doing the same shit, and then you could see me do a 20-minute spot at any club, or you could see me drag that same 20 out for an entire hour and pay way more with no other acts to give you a sense of variety. I worry that are we talking about comedy enough?
Yeah,
I worry that
if we can bring it back around to comedy at some stage.
Perfect.
I don't mind going off for a bit, but if we can bring it back around to comedy at some stage.
Yeah.
No, I've got stuff that I really like, but it's working, but not where it needs to be yet for me.
Yes.
And it's like there's a couple of lines that I really like that are hitting properly, like one every two, like.
Pretty good ratio for a new material.
3.
Frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're like, but that worked in front of the...
Yeah.
And what am I doing different? It's just trying to nut out all the... and trim the fat. But, but I am at the point where I am so much more in love with those ideas than the idea of killing it.
With stuff that you're...
With stuff that I could have done any other time. So that's sort of where I'm at, where I like I've walked away from a couple of gigs going, I probably could have done and watching
some stronger, more consistent material. However, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I gave some of these darlings some.
It's more like no, I'm glad I did that.
But it hurts, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
When you walk away knowing you could have given that crowd a much better show, a tighter show, or just more laughs. I don't think for me it's ego anymore of like, I could have gotten more laughs. I actually genuinely have come around to a point where I feel like I let the audience down. Not let them down, but I just feel like I could have given them a better show.
Yep.
That was when I started doing comedy. One of the greats, Anthony Murr, said, when you're doing stand-up, just assume that everyone in this audience has never seen stand-up comedy before. And you're their first ever taste, so give it your due diligence. And what he meant was like, you don't need to crush. Don't put pressure on yourself to but prepare as best you can. Don't phone it in. Don't rock up with a couple of half-assed ideas that you've written on a cocktail napkin. Practice it. Practice it in the car. Say it out loud. Build some memory dendrites so you know where you're going next. Make an effort. So if I feel like I could have put more effort into prep, and then I get up there and I just half-ass it, and the crowd doesn't laugh as much as I know I could have made them laugh, I feel bad. And I think that's a good point. Beyond ego, I think it's a good place to be. Professionally, I think it's a mark of professionalism I'm proud of.
But it's also a much healthier approach in that that's the bit you can control. You can't always control every element of how they're going to perceive you, how they're going to... how that audience is feeling that. Now, there's a whole bunch of shit that's out of your control there. Your preparation and how you giving them the best chance to engage with you with what you're trying to make them laugh with is is the bit you can control.
Yes.
So that's a good approach, I think. What is because your writing is very it's very precise. You have very good precise wordings in your jokes. Yeah. You've got a good turn of phrase. What is that process? Are you sit down, type, or are you?
Yeah, I type, I write it all out. I did script writing at uni as my minor. I did a Bachelor of Arts Media Studies with a minor in script writing. Dialogue was a strength of mine for those scripts. I've watched so many movies all my life, grown up with them. So wording is important. I know how important wording, tone, and everything is. And being able to recreate the way you say those words every time, getting the right tone every single time. Because words is the only thing we're really face. Some communication is non-verbal, but for us, I think, you're building a fucking concept that elicits joy. The words are the only tool you've really, really got.
Well, you and I aren't big act-out guys either. Running around.
Sorry. I'm a big act-out guy. Come on now. You seen the muffins bit? You haven't seen some of the stuff.
The muffins bit was great.
Yeah, the Cuban comedian who's had half a kilo of blow. You haven't heard that one? It's really on the nose. I think it's okay, but I mean, it's probably got like a couple more years until I just can't do it. But I do it on the cruise ships. There's a maritime law where casual racism doesn't exist.
International waters.
You get it, and it's a wild act out. But I do a lot of accents, a lot of different voices.
What I mean is, it's not a big physical. You're not running around everywhere. You're building. Yeah. A lot of your stuff could go if you were doing it in radio. You do a lot with your voice. You do a lot with, but it's not. You're building a picture in someone's mind, not physically running around showing.
I actually saw some footage of me, and I guess I'm getting influenced by TikTok and all of these other comics. You see there's physicality to a lot of the stuff that gets the most likes and most shares. And it's actually quite visually entertaining when it's physically dynamic. Yes. And I saw some footage of me recently. The comedy was getting good laughs, but I was looking at myself and I was like, "You're a bit static. And I can move. I've got a weird.
I've seen you on the dance floor. You can move.
Tearing shit up. You put Cotton Eye Joe on, and it's over.
Well, let me tell you, Rhythm isn't the only one who's a dancer. Jacques is also a dancer.
Side note, one of the worst things you can do, comedy clubs, like comedy in a nightclub. Sometimes they do comedy in a nightclub before the nightclub opens, and then you do a show, and like I've done them, and you go great. The crowd's in like loving it, fucking loving it, laughing at everything, and then you stick around and watch them dance, and you see what they actually dance to, and it is some of the worst fucking 5, 6, 7, 8. You're like, I need to scrap that entire set.
I'm that of comedy.
I quit forever. It's a real leveler.
I'm the S Club 7 of comedy.
Oh, God. I thought I was putting the system on trial. Meanwhile, back at the fucking ranch, it is a hard pill to swallow.
Oh, that's what were we talking about before that distraction? Oh, the physicality.
Physicality,
so you saw yourself and you decided you needed to be more physical.
I didn't say that. I was like, it'd be nice if that guy was a bit more physical.
I remember last year I taped, I'd done my show here, and then I think the last one of my Sydney ones, I got my mate to just bring the camera, film it. And I was like, you know what, you're filming, you got to be more physical. And in my head, I was like, I'm all out here, I'm doing these big actions. And I watched it back, and it's literally just a slight little hand gesture.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it?
In my head, I was the greatest showman, and then you watch it.
Fucking lunging.
Yeah.
It's a factor. It's like when you look at yourself, you can hear comedy. I audio record a lot of my stuff, and that's where I'm listening for the wording, changing the wording, seeing what really gets the laughs, and with reordering. But when you see yourself, I find it hard to pull back from seeing myself and actually see a comic, like have a subjective out-of-body experience, like a judge my performance based on, I don't know who this is, I'm just seeing this comedian for the first time. It's super hard to detach yourself like that. Makes it difficult, but if you can do it, you can, and be honest with yourself, you can see not flaws, but see opportunities you're not taking. Yeah. And physicality is kind of one of them.
I've realized,
especially in the modern era of like people on screens. Sorry. Yeah.
No, but my thing, I had the realization last year is that I don't, like,
if you just sell the bit.
Mm.
You got to try and sell it a bit. I've never really sold my bits.
You
enough,
just
I
let
don't
the
think.
premise and the concept rest on its own merits, and it's worked for you, my man.
Yeah,
You got some great insights there.
But you need, like, I think, like, you can get the extra 10% out of it.
Yeah, you
if
can really milk
just-
it.
If you sound like you believe what you're saying
Yeah.
instead of this is a joke I wrote 6 months ago and it seems to go all right.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
with the writing, how do you go? Because I find when I sit down to write, I will write as I would write a letter or write. I don't write the way I speak. Whereas you, like, obviously are skilled enough that your bits sound like a man
I write
speaking.
it as dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the secret to that? Writing as dialogue. If you,
I write as if I could give this to someone, because when you're writing scripts so this is in character,
yep,
and you're writing it so you're about to give it to an actor, and they have to read it, and immediately, from how they're reading it, it be accurate for the character they're trying to portray. So when I'm thinking about myself, when I'm on stage, who I am off stage and on stage, there's not much difference between the way I view the world. It's just me jacked up an extra notch. It's 2.0.
yeah. You getting to say stuff without people interrupting is what I find when I'm over constructing an argument on stage. This is what I'd like to be able to. It's all the things I'd like to be able to say if no one stopped me
Interrupt
midway
you.
and go, "You're an
Totally.
idiot. This is what you said
Exactly.
at the start is wrong."
I actually am a diagnosed introvert who's with
Really?
extroverted nature. So if you're an introvert, because I'm an only child and I lived in the country and I didn't have many friends growing up, and I was quiet and I didn't really have. I came out of my shell when I went and met. I got a good friendship group when I was at school, but for the first quite a few years of my life, introverted, which means any conversations I had tended to be with mum and dad.
Yep.
And you end up having to speak like an adult
Yeah.
because you have to get their attention. If you got a brother or sister, you can talk to them as a child.
Yep.
And you can just fuck around and you can say stupid shit and have fun, whatever. To get my parents' attention, I had to speak. So I had to prepare like what I was going to say. Otherwise, they just wouldn't, they'd listen, but they wouldn't engage with me unless I was. So I ended up having to act older and more mature than I actually was. And in the same way of, like, I guess Michael Jackson, hear me out. Same way as Michael Jackson, he kind of lost in many ways, didn't have a childhood
Yep.
because he was just straight on the stage with Jackson 5. So they didn't have a childhood to play and have fun. They were just sort of. I did have a childhood, but I didn't have that much time to play with, to interact with other kids for a long time. So I guess now my maturity levels are really low, but the skill I did pick up on was preparing conversations, preparing talking points before I broached the topic with my mum and dad. So getting the wording right.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of felt comedy is kind of natural in a way. I can just start a conversation up there and yes, not be interrupted, but I can go back the next night, change what I said a little bit, and then have the conversation again. So over time, for a set, for like a whole, like a 10-minute set, over a course of a year, I can rehearse that particular chat, that particular conversation, maybe 50 to 100 times in a year. By the end of it, I've got this conversation. I know exactly where the good points are. I know exactly where I'm going with it. And that makes me feel, I don't know, it alleviates anxiety in a way.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. Some people get on the stage and they're nervous. Getting on a stage for me is actually quite calming because I just know where this chat's probably going to go.
Yeah, there is something that I find, like I've got a very and I think it's very common with comedians with what I describe as a noisy brain. There's always a lot of shit going on in my head, like a lot of just different thoughts and voices and whatever.
The
going on.
synapses fire off.
Yeah.
Like a death blossom in there, just every direction at once.
Exactly, but then that on stage is that bit where it draws your focus, and it's like, oh, this is the one point where I'm in this moment.
Yes.
Where I'm not thinking about three things down the track or whatever else. This is like I'm present, which I find sometimes hard to do in conversations, normal conversations where you're talking to someone and it drifts off.
Yeah.
Whereas it's in some ways easier to talk to a bunch of strangers than a small group of people you care if they like you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not that we don't care about our audiences, but en masse, you don't mean as much to a personal conversation with someone close to you. Tell me if this has ever happened to you. Have you been on stage and you've been doing fucking great?
No.
No, okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to ask. It's never happened to me either. I just want to know what it feels like, I guess.
Yeah, no.
But I've felt it a couple of times, not for a while. It was more early on. I'd have almost an out of body experience where I'm on stage, microphone, doing really well, and I have a moment where I actually am I'm standing behind myself, watching me from behind kill. It's happened maybe 5 or 6 times. It's a fucking it's a very trippy, cool, disconcerting, lucid moment. And I'm like, oh, this is very I don't know, it's not addictive, but it's like, it's moments like that where I'm like, I was, without being arrogant, I was supposed to do this.
Yeah.
This is
the thing
this is the thing I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's like, not that comedy it's a thing you can get good at, but it's a calling. I think you and I, we were called to it. Somewhere in the scriptures, something that said a white guy who wears a flannel, and a lot of cunts answered that call. But we also answered the call.
I've had that moment where you just sort of, it becomes a little surreal, and you're like, but that's where, like, those moments where you're really just in it and you feel like you're in control of the energy in the room.
Yeah.
Where I've had that moment where a few times where same thing. It's not heaps, but I've had it enough that I know that's when I really go, fuck, this is fun. Like, I'm really 100%
you're floating.
enjoying.
Yeah,
this.
you're floating. It's
and you've got that confidence of going, okay, I've got control of the energy in this room, and we can take it. Like, I can do, like, and that's where I find I've got time to sit more in a bit, and that's when that performance of the belief in a bit, where I end up sell it a bit more, because I'm excited to get the thought across to them, because I'm like, fuck, you loved that, you're gonna love this.
I love this because it's a new bit, and I haven't told it 1,000 times, and it hasn't broken my heart yet. And I love it, and I'm gonna yell it.
The flip side of that, though, is I don't know if you've ever get that thing where you go out and you've almost been doing the same material too much or whatever, and so you're just like, oh, I've been doing plenty, and it's I don't have to really think too much before it. And then you get out there and you realize that you have that moment where you hear yourself talking about, and like, you're like, oh fuck, I'm in the middle of a set here, and I'm not, and you're just behind the eyes, not engaged at all, and there's no connection. Doesn't matter if it's working or not, there's just, you're getting nothing from it because you're not getting any connection.
And they can tell. They don't know that they can tell, but they can tell. They're animals. They can sense all of these micro twitches. They can see micro expressions. They can see all kinds of stuff that we're doing. This is, again, don't want this to sound arrogant and overtly cocky, but I asked you earlier about whether you've got some material in your set that it works, it gets really good laughs, but you're not that proud of it. I don't have any material in my set that I'm not, at least there's nothing that I'm like, oh, this fucking bit, I'll do it because it crushes. Every single bit is something I'm proud of. Every single bit is, if someone else said it, I would laugh at it. If I hadn't thought of it, I know for a fact that so I'm proud of it, which means I can say it over and over and over and still have passion for it, still sell it, still give it. Some bits I kind of maybe phone in a little bit, but not really. Every single bit is like, I am happy with this and I can get behind it. I've got new bits that I'm like, I love this premise, but when I get up there and I deliver it, I fumble through it and I realize you didn't love it. Not yet anyway. Yeah. It's got to prove to me that it's got some legs before I'll give it. Again, it needs to be funny very early on in me doing new material. Got to be very funny early on, or I'm like, I'll bench you. You're done. You got one fucking shot.
But every time I work with you, you seem to have a new chunk that I haven't seen. But it's it never has the feel of something. Oh, this is something he's thought of this afternoon, and he's just sort of testing out, working on.
No,
You
I hide behind the writing. I make sure I've got it not word perfect, but I've given like due diligence. I've just written it and I've practiced it. I just want it to sound like something that I've at least given, I don't know, thrown a couple of hours at to get the wording just right and get the structure of it right.
See, I wish I had, because I've got a problem where sometimes I get in love with a premise, and I get the first couple of beats and they're my favorite thing, and then I'm like, okay, just keep writing. And sometimes I get to the point where, and it almost like can be a tipping point where I try to, and it moves away from, like it's almost like I
The initial
overwrote
premise,
the bid,
which gets the laughs early on.
and I get further from the concept that's
Yeah.
the thing I loved, and then I just fall out of love, and I can't make that work. I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to.
Just stick with it. You come back to it down the track. It always happens. I've got jokes that, the little ideas that I wrote maybe 3-4 years ago, and I'm like, I couldn't make that work. And I'll go through my notes on my phone. I'll just bored on a flight, no internet. I don't know who you're flying with. Maybe you have Wi-Fi. Fucking top end of town.
Oh, top end of town.
Top end of town.
Don't know what town I'm on the top end of, mate.
Fucking
It's a small
Campbelltown. But I'll just go through my entire notes section, and I'll go back to 2018, and I'll see an idea, and immediately I'll go, that's good, and 3 or 4 things will pop into my head, and bang, that's a bit. Now it's on its way.
That was the best thing that came out of when the first time I ever did Carnival cruise ships, where I had to literally go and find 2.5 hours worth of material, and I got all my old notebooks, and I just
It's
wrote
harrowing, isn't it?
everything I could think of.
Everything.
Tried to divide it up into 30-minute chunks, but having to go back over those old notebooks and then re-examine it and go,
Just wringing it out, just squeezing, milking because 2.5 hours, 5 30-minute shows is so much fucking material, especially if you don't win them over in your first show.
Ooh.
Oh man, that's one of the things about cruise ships is people assume we just do one show on the cruise and then that's it. Glory days. You 5 separate shows, and if you don't get them early on, and you do your strongest show to begin with, and it doesn't get them, and you're like, I got some real weak links coming in show 3 and 4 and 5. That oh boy, and then you end up having to write, and then I end up putting all of my best stuff into the family friendly show. Because kids are so hard to make laugh. Yeah. So I end up putting it. You got to get the fucking heavy hitting punchlines that aren't obviously about dicks and pussy and whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously you
got
remove
6 or 7 of them.
6 or 7 like minutes max. They stretch that out. But that is wringing out everything you've got. When you boil it down, you go, I've got enough material. I can get this done. And then you look at everything you've got. You're like, I don't have much at all.
Yeah.
I get sad. I look at all the writing and I go, I've got 4 or 5 topics that I focus on. And outside of that, I don't.
That's
who
what
am
I realised. There's basically, you got 4 or 5 themes that everything revolves around and comes back to. And
do you know what your themes are?
Okay, so mostly it would be wife, kids. I have a bit of a thing on the passage of time, things changing over the passage of time. Yep. A little bit around.
Oh yeah, do you remember when it used to be? And that's a very fertile crescent, that one. Yeah,
and even like now, I find I'm writing similar, and then the occasional thing that's newsy that I'm trying to get to, and then it's like it'll be something that's tackling a bigger issue that the society's worrying about. I'll have a bit on, like everyone does, or whatever the latest moral outrage is. That's in the news.
One. You gotta ride what people are talking about, because it just gives you good fodder to just go, the fucking kids, you fucking whingers. Listen to you talking about the fucking planet. Blah blah blah.
Mate, I had a bulletproof. I reckon I had 35 minutes of bulletproof COVID material.
Oh,
and it's just people. It's almost like the pandemic wouldn't go on. If it had just kept coming back a little bit, I'd be fine.
It'd be perfect. But no, people really want to walk away from it.
Yeah.
People really want to turn them back. Yeah, that's the risk of topical material is coming up with a real fucking red hot take about something in the news.
Yeah.
And then shelf life.
Yeah.
It's got 3 weeks, and then you do that joke on the 4th week, and you feel it halved the amount of laughter, and you're like, well, that's the death rattle.
Yeah.
For this precious bit.
Then you find you're starting with remember when.
Yeah, trying to crowbar it in.
Yeah.
Then you end up, kind of, you're in the YouTube comments and whatever, stoking conspiracy theories, trying to get this one particular topic back in the news.
Back trending. Yeah. What are your themes?
Mine, it's growing up in the country, like a love-hate affair with being a Queensland bush kid.
Yep.
And then coming to the city, and then like the babe pig in the city kind of fish out of water.
Yep.
Just dick jokes, like literally like a lot of stuff talking about sexual not exploits, but like sexual conundrums.
Yep.
Borderline, some of it filth, but more or less, just just some fuck gear.
That's the thing. That's I hate when people just go, but it's filth. Like, because it's
it's very
within the context of. It's not like you're going to a morning tea. For congratulations, these people have all just been made citizens of Australia. Shark,
it's a 9:30 p.m. fucking gig. I'm going to talk about my dick,
which is the stuff that one, those audiences want, but two, it's not that's the
it's
exact
universal
environment for it.
Everybody fucking we all out here fucking. So if you've got material that's applicable, that's when, because if you travel a lot, I mean, you can do comedy about Australia, but I'm telling you, I go overseas. Dick jokes and that kind of stuff, and the kind of filth set. It's universal. Talking about the generations, like getting old, at old people and young people, and me being right in the middle and being able to see both. There's a lot of stuff about that.
A bunch of that at the moment too.
Yeah, it's good. Me not having kids and me saying or seeing the people who do have lots of kids, judging them.
Oh yeah, you're
not being a parent, but judging parents essentially.
So I respect the way you do it, because you're not. There's a bunch of people that do that thing, and they tend to do it like newer comics or at a certain age, like maybe sort of early 30s. You see the people that haven't got kids but have got nieces and nephews, and it's what I call parenting material by proxy.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
they haven't officially been a parent, so you don't fucking know, but they're dabbling.
Yeah, they're talking,
and they're acting like they've been through the hardship of parenthood.
Well, I don't even mind that, but this kid stuff works. I've got a nephew. I'll say I've got a nephew, and I'll make it about that. It's like, it's
all right,
not quite the same unless you've had a few sleepless nights. But see, whereas yours is different. Yours is
straight up talking about, I'm not having any kids, but have a look at the fucking cunts who are. Jesus. Yeah. And then
yours is
emptying the clip.
It's a bit, it's the 1,000 feet view of the whole thing. And you're judging, and you're going somewhere interesting with it. It's not like material that if you became a dad that you could just go, now I've got kids, I'm like, just change the tense.
I actually have a bit that is just like the one you said, which it works 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 times. When it works, it fucking destroys.
Yeah.
And the other 2 times it didn't. I did it at your room in Sydney. I think I might have told you this. About having I'm not going to have any children, which is a great thing you can do for the environment. A great thing. I'm doing a great thing for the planet. I'm so sick of these corporations acting like they're saving the world. You know, when you're in a hotel, in the bathroom, they've always got that sign that says, every day millions of liters of water were wasted to wash a towel that was used once. I always see that shit and I giggle to myself. That I look at the hotel towel and I look at what I just did to it, what I've just used it for, and I'm like, that's an environmentally conscientious decision.
Yeah.
And I think you should wash it, even though I only used it once. It's good, but
that's such a good bit.
It's good, but it's like in the middle there's a lack of communication. I don't think everyone is straight away working out that I've used it as it's a cum towel joke.
Yeah.
They can't work out. And I'm like, from the way I look and the way I've said things, everything I've said up until this point, I've given you only one option to think that this is a cum towel joke. I don't know what else you would think I've done to this towel apart from coming on it. Oh, that better be a clip you put up
You
on
know,
YouTube.
There's also
This better be in the highlight reel.
Yeah,
The cum
it's,
towel 4-minute
gonna
bit.
mark that time code. But I think the other thing where you sometimes people, and it's this, I hate the word, but trigger. You know, there are genuine trigger words for audiences, and not trigger as in they actually get upset. They just go, They hear a word and they go, I can't. They don't think they're allowed to laugh, or they think they're being judged.
Exactly.
When you say it's a good thing for the environment, like.
People, do you think parents feel like they're being judged?
I'm being judged for having kids.
I should soften it because that's not my approach. I'm not judging people of having kids and what you've done to this planet. I'm saying that I don't need to fucking recycle or care about the fucking turtles because I've done my part.
Yeah, and also, save the world for our children. What kind of world do you want to leave for your children? Well, yours are about to get washed out of a tower. There's that, but it's just that I don't know. It might just be a subtle thing with some.
I think that might
some
be
parents
right.
get very funny about that.
Yeah, I'll soften it because I don't care about anyone having children. I act like I care when I see someone who's had 6 kids, and usually I always say like they're really of stud quality.
Yeah.
And I judge them, and we all make fun. I think it's really. Everyone can get on board with that. And I always say, I don't want to sound like Hitler up here with my eugenics regime. And I'm like, I think that's how Hitler got started. I think he was getting some good laughs on the Austrian open mic nights and then took it way too far, obviously. But that, and the other topic that that I've just always done, I've always enjoyed, is Australians overseas and how shit we are overseas.
You've got some very, very good bits.
Yeah,
around that.
They're baked in. Like that whole string, that whole line of a set is like good 12, 13 years old now. Some of it, and it's baked in. That, and also my casual recreational drug use over the years is also good fodder.
Your observation, the one that I love at the moment that you do is about the scariest audience member, the heckler. Mm-hmm. That is because it not only is very funny in the audience stuff, but sitting backstage with comedians, hearing you do that voice, it draws out a visceral reaction.
Yeah, because we will be there. Talking about doing rough country pub gigs, or about the heckle one.
The heckle. Both of those are great, but it's the heckle one that gets the visceral reaction. I think so too.
From
him.
Yeah.
Especially as the MC, because oh man, the whole balance of this night
is hinging on about talking about how women in their late 40s, early 50s are the best hecklers.
Yeah,
they don't even need to fucking heckle you; they just say one word. No. And all of us are like, especially because we've done comedy on cruise ships, that's where they run wild. That's their natural habitat out there in the Maritimes.
They've got the Prosecco and the Rosé on the drinks package.
Yeah. 50% of the women on those cruise ships, same name as the cyclone that's approaching. Chaos. No. You've got bits. Do you have people who come up to you and you've got iconic bits that other comics love?
I'm trying to think. Like, people have said to me a couple of things they've liked, but I don't know that people come up and tell me.
This is why you got to get into character work.
Yeah.
You got to start doing stupid voices.
Really?
That's what people remember, the stupid voices. You got to start. Yeah. Do you do many accents, many characters?
No, I do one. I've got one joke about I've been doing it because I didn't do it for ages and I kind of really love it.
Is it an impression of an Indian Uber driver? Just a little on the nose at the moment.
And his name is.
But once these progressives lighten up a bit, we'll get back to the good old days. Doing the head wobble and everything.
I ran it past my Sri Lankan mate. He said it's fine.
He said it's fine. Shout out to Dilruk, ladies and gentlemen.
I was thinking of Seren, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Look at me.
Mate.
Two Sri Lankan mates.
Jesus.
Oh, God. I am a man of the world. Give me a call, Benetton. But I've got a bit about how the Australians that pick up, they do a bit of travelling and then they want to talk, they want to pick up the accent stuff.
Oh yeah.
The way I tell it at the moment is like, because it used to be a mate of mine, but now don't look like I'd have a mate who's taken a gap year. It's a younger cousin who came back and is like the croissants in Paris. Oh man, you grew up in Uguna. Settle down.
I know. Yeah, nice.
But then where I do the accent, I say Australians are the only ones that do that. Like, do you think any Japanese tourist has ever visited Australia and then just gone back to Tokyo and been like, "Arigato, dickhead"? Nah, konnichiwa and that.
Nah, konnichiwa, bro. Konnichiwa.
Yeah. So that bit audiences love that because he just doing that real Australian accent.
That is one of
everyone
the
loves
great
to make
ones. Yeah.
fun of.
It's
But,
great.
yeah.
You can as
I'm
one
a
of the.
little disappointed. I thought you were going to tell me when
This is the bit.
I
This is
love
the
you
bit, yeah.
do, but no, it turns out, man, write a
do
bit
like
that
that
people
bit.
like.
Yeah, because we don't have anything to recognize you by. I mean, you could fade into the ether and people would notice. People would notice. Be like, oh, one less fucking podcast with comics talking about comedy.
Thank fuck I never had to do his podcast.
This is like. I hope this has been on brand. I have not listened to the podcast because everyone you have on the podcast, I just fucking hang out in a Tarago or on a cruise ship. We spend time together
you've
with
heard
all the guests.
conversation we're having.
We have the chat, yeah. But is it quite often? It's just like comics kind of nerding out about comedy, or does it go?
Not actually. This has been a bit more deep, like nerding about comedy.
So
but
I had a sense. I had a feeling.
I did want to because I am fascinated with your writing process because you are so well written. Like I'm a bit obsessed with that at the moment because you and Luke Heggie are two.
Oh fuck, that guy can write, man.
But it's the stuff because I've realized, and I was saying this to him the other day. We were just chatting without mics, like weirdos.
What a waste.
I know. The world, bad luck, internet. You missed it. But but the concepts the stuff you can say you get away with that in other conversation you wouldn't get away with or you wouldn't get laughed because it's so eloquently spoken.
Yes.
It sounds like it adds a bit of weight to an argument that people would naturally buck at, but then
Heggie's wording is when he goes like super close to the event horizon of a black hole. Yeah. And he's going to get sucked in the gravitational pull. He's going to say something. And he's talking about a really touchy subject. And he just, with words, just like a fucking genius, just goes, and then just pulls out right before it gets too tense. Big punchline, explosion, and he's back. And it's like the amount of tension he can build just by bringing up a particular topic. Yeah. And then he just alleviates that tension just constantly. It's just constantly. It's like an engine, you know. It's just tension release, release, tension release. It's just perpetual. Yeah, it's great. It's great to watch. I watched him last night. So fucking good.
Yeah, I went and saw his show in Canberra when I was in Canberra with him. He's just so good. And sitting with other comics,
depressing in a way because of how good it is, but still very enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. It's and if he wasn't,
I hate the cunt.
Yeah,
there we go. I said it.
Yeah, good.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
I'm fucking tired of it.
Now,
I hope it get cancelled so I get a fucking gig.
Now I've got the clip.
Hey, bud.
No, because I was thinking about that because I've been trying. There's one topic I've been trying to write on, and I won't say it on this.
Yes, you will.
No.
Oh, you will.
I'll talk to you.
Don't worry, man. I do all the editing on this podcast. I'll edit you out if you go too close to the sun. Come at me, bro.
I started doing it at that. The joke lab that Century have that little room where they do at the factory in the lead up to festivals. If you're in Sydney, they'll give you long sets and it's
flesh
just
out.
people working on shows. And I was doing it, and it came up. There was off the back of two different bits that were both having a point of view, but then one led into the other, and just the compound of it, I could feel them starting to get. And I just said to them, I said, "Listen, I know this is dicey stuff coming from a guy who looks like me," and it took the energy out of the tension out of the room. I'm working on this. I know, I know what I look like. I know how this could sound. That's not my intention. I'll find it.
Man, it's so hard when you sense everyone clinching up to keep going. It's so fucking hard.
Mate, I had a go at him that night because I said to him something about I said I like sport. Does anyone here like sport? And it was just like I said,
what, Marrickville?
The rugby league.
City's inner west.
Yeah, and that's what one guy's put his hand up. I said you do. You're just scared to say it here because the nerds will bully you. For being into sport.
Oh, the tables have turned.
It's so, yeah. And then that got a laugh, and then I was like, okay.
And then you're in.
We're starting to...
Momentum is
We're
key.
starting to go, guys.
A bit's got to start off with a good foundation, then you got to go from there. But man, a lot of it is momentum. A lot of it is luck.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then just failing and trying it again.
Yeah. Over.
Which is...
And over. And over again. Like this podcast, which is this is a great first recording, and then we're going to turn off the mics and we'll just trim it down to all the best bits, and then we're going to have a break, a cup of tea and stuff, and we'll come back for another hour until we get a decent...
Once the transcript's typed up and we can look over it, highlight the section. Someone said to me once, have you ever thought about putting out transcripts of your podcast? Like,
you just like
absolutely not.
Just puts one in the chamber. What did you just fucking say to me, cunt?
They don't deserve.
Oh, dude, a transcript?
I also had one where I
don't want ChatGPT knowing what we're saying on this podcast. It'll learn too much about comedy.
Then it'll replace us.
Yeah, that's it. People.
I had another one. Someone commented or sent me a direct message on Instagram saying, "I'm enjoying your clips, but I forget where they were from. But with your accent, I find it very hard to understand. I think you should do subtitles so more people can enjoy it."
No.
And I'm like...
My nuances, my inflections. It's all I am in this crazy mixed up world. But yeah, there is a reliance, not a reliance on subtitles, but I don't know. People are quietly trying to take a shit and listen to a podcast and watch YouTube at the same time. You got to give those people the chance to listen. They might have left their earbuds at the office desk.
Yes. Oh, man. Hey, so before we go, because we are getting about to that time.
I've really been fucking running my mouth. Imagine if we were talking about a topic I actually was enthusiastic about.
Yeah, I know. Well, we can get onto that next.
Yeah,
next episode.
Oh yeah, no, next podcast. If you happen to do a podcast about golf, bro, I am in.
Are you a golf nerd?
And not a nerd. I'm a proper self-admitted addict.
Really?
Bug. Got the bug.
I do
Bad.
love golf, but I very rarely get to play.
Yeah.
But you're a rugby league fan too, aren't you?
Rugby league, man. Love my fucking rugby league.
All over the Finns.
Dolphins, baby. All the way.
Your Dolphins, I mean, this is going to timestamp this, but they're taking on my Knights this weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is weird because I think we're around 6 and this will be the second time we've played.
No, tonight, Dolphins are playing tonight, if that's the case.
I'm pretty sure
they're
it's
playing
Knights.
Cowboys.
Are they?
Yeah.
They've already
played the Knights?
It's next week.
Is it next week?
Next week. Yeah, because I was looking forward in the draw and I'm like, this came around really quick.
Really quickly. Very quickly.
Yeah. But,
look, best of luck to the Knights with Kalen Ponga out. I don't like your chances, but we could cop some serious fucking injuries against the Cowboys tonight, mate. Yeah. Anything can happen. It's early days. We are lacking depth in the team when it comes to injuries. We've got a couple of weak spots. We're trying to fill them as best we can. It's just going to be a very interesting first year. Second year, 2024, fins up, baby. We're gonna change the game.
See, now we've hit on a
something
subject
I'm actually interested in.
Yeah.
God damn it. I did you a favor by talking about comedy for an hour.
Yeah, well, now I learnt something.
I'm taking this as a tax.
When you sit at the feet, mate, you sit at the feet. You got to listen. So where can people find you? What's like your obviously you got clips online. Do you podcast or anything? Or
I did have a podcast, but it's obviously it's a lot of work. I'm not like you, succinct. Get to the point. Whenever I do a podcast of my own, I'm fucking running my mouth, and it ends up being 15 hours of editing per week just to cut out all the shit I said about all of those minorities and all that stuff. I've got to cut all that stuff out. All the casual racism. It just takes so long. But I've got literally just stand-up.
Yep.
That's all I've got. That's at the moment. I'm sure something else will come along. Maybe driving Uber. But
yeah,
I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do.
What my license plate is when I get my car up and running. You can find me at the socials at JB Championi. And I'm sure in the subtitles that you so graciously put up Jacques Barrett, you'll see the spelling, and you can go onto YouTube and see if you see my comedy stylings and see some of my stupid act outs and how much I don't move my arms when I perform.
See his range of flannelette shirts.
Yeah, dude, I got a fucking back catalogue too, bangers. Most of it Patagonia. I'm an Earth warrior, and I don't need to be, because I'm not going to have any children.
Mate, Jacques Barrett, as you Take a bite of your chocolate.
And
Thank you very much.
And chew into a microphone. Fuck, listeners love it.
Thanks for doing that, mate.
Thank you very much, buddy.
Cheers.